story of the big betrayal. Yes, I do tell stories now. I don't know what happened to the first take. Anyways, guys, basically today I'm going to be giving you the entire backstory of my lower elementary purpose. Now, by the title, I know a few of my subscribers are probably my classmates, so y'all know what the big betrayal is by now. If not, I'm going to, as soon as I start talking, it's gonna understand. But before I do, I just wanted to point out that merch is still available, and yet no one has bought it. I've gotten one purchase, that was from my grandma, because she wanted that mug. It's a very special mug. Anyways, so basically, that's really all I have to say. You can still buy merch. That dog is not alive anymore. Okay, so usually when my, okay, you may be wondering why I just stared into space. Now I know this frickin' house is haunted. Basically, my dog is dead, and anytime my door opened, I assumed she was nudging my door. But I can barely feel any air coming out of that vent. So what the frick just tapped my door? That cough sounded like the screech of a demon. Anyways, so let me tell you about the big betrayal. It all started in, I think when I was in kindergarten. Yeah. So basically, I met this kid who, for the sake of the video, and for the sake of me not exposing information, we're gonna say his name was Bobby. No, that's a bad name. I'm gonna use that for another kid. Let's say his name was, I don't know, Jim. Alright, so I meet Jim on the first day of school. He seems like a pretty cool kid. I meet him, and so, like, my teacher, Miss Karen, who we're going to call for the sake of the video, she says, alright guys, today we're going to do a walk and meet. And I was like, okay, interesting. And so she's like, basically, walk around and meet whoever's in the class. Basically, get to know people. I know a bunch of teachers that do, I know the year teachers and stuff probably do the name game and stuff like that, some crap like that, where they're like, introduce yourself and say something you like or something like that, right? You don't know what I'm talking about? I'm surprised. Whoopsies. But yeah. So basically, then I meet Jim. And I'm like, this kid seems nice. Now, fun fact. This will make sense why I'm telling you this later. I used to be obsessed with supervillains. I still kind of am. Honestly, because I think for a second, people. What would the hero be without the villain? Why do you think cartoon characters and stuff make the villains go through extreme pain but never die? The villain would be something without the hero. He could still take over it would make his life easier. He would still have a purpose to take over the world. And however, the villains can live without the heroes, though heroes can't live without the villains, is what I'm saying. So really, the heroes are more important than the villains. I know a few people disagree. But yeah. Villains still have a purpose without heroes. They still are perfectly capable to take over the world without heroes. But however, heroes have no ability to save the world unless the villains try to put it in jeopardy. So basically, the reason I'm telling you this is because, yeah, fun fact. Y'all are gonna think this is funny. This is totally unrelated. Well, it is related. It's about villains. You know who my idol villain used to be, basically, when I was young? It was Megamort. if y'all don't know who that is, I'm not surprised. It's basically this really disgusting rat. And he's from the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and he's like a super villain of some kind. It's like he's in one. I think this is funny. I used to want to be like him. Like, I used to want to wear a purple suit and stuff. You can look him up. I think some people made a meme about it. It's called Megawort. I looked at it. It was hilarious. Yeah, I recently watched that. But yeah, he was my idol villain as a child. I'm still technically a child. But yeah, he was my idol villain. So, I just figured I'd point that out so that y'all can make fun of me in the comments. But yeah, anyways, enough about me. Let's start talking about Jim, or whatever I gave his name. I meet him and I figured, oh, this kid is cool. And he likes to cosplay as a superhero. And I'm like, alright, that's so we're not really into role-playing and stuff. Of course, these weren't my exact thoughts and words. But, that's cool. But I'm not really into, like, cosplaying, role-playing, stuff like that. So, but I learned to love it. And I grew to love role-playing. And eventually, this kid became my quote-unquote enemy. Like, I faked not getting along with him and stuff. He knew it was all a joke, and then I would pretend to, like, try and catch him or something. And then, one day, this is unrelated, but I was trying to catch him, and there's this little spider web thing in the middle of the playground. It's made of metal, and I hit my head on it. It was the second most painful thing of my life. I had to think for a second, because I've experienced extremely painful things. First painful thing was breaking my arm. It sucked. I'll have a whole different story coming about that. No, wrong. Wait. Yeah, this arm. I broke it. But yeah, it was like the second most painful thing. So painful, in fact. Now, it doesn't hurt to touch anymore, but I still have the bump on my head. You can't really see it. Yeah, you can't see it too well. But it's there. I still feel the bump in my skull. It's not supposed to be there. But, anyways, so, I know I've been talking about myself a lot. Let's get back to the story. So, basically, yeah. Eventually, I start to actually grow a disliking for this kid. Like, I begin to realize, like, he's not really that cool. I mean, I just don't get the best impression off of him at first. But then, I'm like, you know what? Differences aside, he's pretty freaking cool. And later, I really do grow to hate him, because I realize he's a bully and a traitor. Anyways, well, not a bully, but a mean kid. Frick, why do I keep doing that? Anyways, yeah. So, I played with this kid, and then later, skip a few years, I just wanted to point out how I met Jim, because he's an important character later. Skip a few years, let's go to first grade. I only skipped like half a year. So basically, I didn't actually skip school years. I just want to point that out. Y'all probably knew that. I'm an idiot. Anyways, so then I meet. So it's first day of school, first grade, and I am so glad because there were a lot of people that I became really close friends with in kindergarten, but there were also a lot of people who I grew a hatred for. Yeah. Anyways, basically, on the first day of school, first grade, I'm like, hey, I meet a kid who is very, very important later, and his name is, I don't know, let's say, Bart. I was looking around the room for information, and I saw Bart Simpson. not sponsored. Anyways, so I meet Bart, and I was like, hey Bart, by the way, Jim isn't in my class anymore, but he's still important later. Basically, I say, hey kid, what's your name? He says his name is Bart. I'm like, cool, my name's Avery. And so later, I meet a third grader. The third graders are the highest grade in my class, as if right then and there. So basically, Miss Caroline is what we're gonna call her. She says, all right, class, first graders, I'm gonna pair you up with a third grader or a second grader to show you around the class. And I get paired up with a kid named Jack. Let's call him that. Basically, I meet this kid named Jack, and so he's like, hey, yeah, he doesn't seem like the nicest kid, but you know what, I'll try to get to know him. In the process of doing so, I began to annoy the living crap out of him, to the point where he was like, just shut up. He didn't say that exactly, but me and him didn't become two good friends. I tried to be nice to him, and I tried and tried again. But eventually, it just got more and more annoying, and eventually I began to get annoyed with him, too. So, you know what I did? You know what this kid did? He was like, I declare a battleship or something. I didn't know what type of video game or whatever he was talking about, because I didn't have an iPad when I was that young. Typical 4-year-old. It wasn't like 4, but I'm just guessing ages. Typical like 6-year-old or whatever. And so, instead all I had was my dad's Nintendo Switch. And that was all the video games I got to play. And my dad does not live with us. So, yeah. I basically only got to play video games on the weekends. So that kind of sucked because I was really good at Mario games. Well, actually, no, wait. I did have video games. I had a Kindle at my house. If y'all don't know what a Kindle is, so basically I did have an iPad when I was young. It's basically the kiddie version of an iPad. It's got like a fancy blue case and stuff. And it's like an Amazon branded tablet, I think. I also have an Amazon branded Fitbit, but I'm not going to go grab it right now. But basically, enough about video games. So, I'm sure that he was talking about, like, something video game or board game or whatever related. And so, since I know what he was talking about, I was like, I didn't bother to ask what a battleship war was, because then I figured I might sound stupid. So, instead, I heard him say war, and I knew what that word meant, because I declared that on gym about a year ago. War, okay, war. Now, anyways, I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna go gather people. And so, later, during our work cycle, I go around to so many freaking people, and I ask them, like, will you join me in the war at recess? And they're all like, sure. And then I meet the most important kid, the traitor, or soon to be traitor. Let's call him Bob. Now we're using the name Bob. So basically, yeah. So far we've met Jim, Frick, what was the second kid's name? Alright, you know what? We're just gonna call him Jim, Dave. The second guy that I met is Dave, the kid who I talked to in, yeah. Basically, I don't know, yeah. Basically, he was the first kid I met, and yeah, I talked to him right before I got to Jack, I think. I'm gonna re-explain it. So basically, I'm a horrible storyteller, I know. So basically, right before I met Jack the annoying 3rd grader, I met Dave, who, he was the first kid I met, and I was like, hey, nice to meet you, what's your name? Oh, Bart is what I called him. Okay, yep, now I remember. Yep, I explained Bart to y'all. Alright, so far we've met Jim, Bart, Jack, and Bob. Jim, Bart, Jack, and Bob. Alright, and so, this kid is the traitor himself. I didn't know it yet. But, later, so, now this is gonna sound real weird when I'm talking about betrayal and Bob, because out of everyone I asked, guess who the one person who stayed with me during the war at least was? It was Bob. And so I'm like, okay, I know this is a kid I can trust. I was wrong. Now, obviously, this kid had no really horrible intentions. I'm about to explain what he claims now than earlier. So, basically, then this goes on for about the first week of the school year. And then someone continues on Jack's legacy the next year because he left class. He didn't leave school, he left class. I don't know what the kid's name was, and honestly, they don't really matter, so we're not going to call him anything. Not anything. Basically continued his legacy for the first week of the next year. But guess who got a class transfer to our class? Jim. And eventually, after talking to him for a few days, I'm like, frick, he's changed. The first grade year of Laurel has corrupted him. So yeah, basically he's not the same kid that I knew. And this is the start where he starts to become a little bit of a traitor and a bully. So, later, I try to befriend him, and it works. But later, yeah, I know. I did ask Bart, and he said he would. But then, you know what I caught Bart doing on the first day of the Battleship War? I saw him sliding down the sled with his hands. I thought he looked so stupid, but I was still mad that he betrayed me. His hands were flailing in the air, and he was going down the slide screaming. And honestly, I don't know why I burst out into tears laughing, because now that I remember, he looks stupid. But yeah, a few days passed, and in the second year, let's use his real name, that could have been bad. Jim kind of starts a little bit of a group, which I somehow become the leader of. And so, I think it's Jim, Bart, Bob, and me that are in this group. And later, Jim betrays that group. I know, when I talk about betrayal, I'm gonna get to Bob's part in a second. And later, I realize, or assume, this kid becomes my worst enemy, basically. Like, I do not take betrayal well. I don't. I really, really do not like traitors. Like, I'm not even kidding. It's gotta be something, like, with my, mentally, like, I cannot stand betrayal. Like, it's not gonna fly around me, buddy. So anyways, this kid betrays me and he becomes my worst enemy. But then, this is Bob's part. Then, I find out, or assume, that Bob was conspiring with Jim. Because you know what happens one day? Bob entirely ditches our base and goes running. And I knew what this meant. And I have been practicing in kindergarten for a year, and this started one of the biggest recess traditions ever in my school, probably. One of the most consistent traditions, which I have been called out to stop many times. It started a chase. I chased after Bob, and he ran. And that's what I knew I would be doing every recess. Now, however, there's plot to it. Chase this kid down, don't end up catching him because he's way faster than me. And then, now he's my number one worst enemy. But I still win after Jim most of the time. Now, you know what this kid claims? Now, me and Bob are obviously, like, good friends now and stuff like that. Yeah. I'm fine with him now. It's still a consistent tradition. I still chase that kid. And he claims that he didn't betray me in the Battleship War. He simply went onto a neutral team. Now, Bob, if you're watching this, I know you're saying, I did go neutral. And, well, I believe you. He didn't, at first, the reason I assumed he betrayed me to go join the enemy team is because they betrayed me. Where else would they go? I didn't know they were going to make their own team, okay? So, yeah. Now, years later, this is when, Jim has really gotten into the bullying phase. Fun fact, he was basically bullying one of my closest friends, who is also a YouTuber, Rocket Plays. Go subscribe to him. And I basically saw him. Now, it was like some sort of thing, Crazy Hat Day or something. Yeah. And some jerk 6th graders, who are my friends, they were just joking around. Some jerk 6th graders had stolen my hat. Now, they weren't actually jerks. I knew it was a game and stuff. But then later, I come back and guess who I see for the first time in about a year? I see Jim, and he's like, sound like such a freaking idiot. I don't even want to say it. He was like, no, wait. I don't think it was Rocket Plays that was the one being bullied. No, he was, one of the kids trying to help me get my hat back. I don't remember who was the one being bullied. No. Yeah, I don't remember. Right. Well, either way, I couldn't say their name. So, but yeah. It was Bob and Rocket Play who were trying to help me get my hat back. And so, then later, when we come back, we find Jim bullying this one kid. And he's like, haha, you pooped your pants. Because he was sitting somewhere, and there were like mud splotches all around the little thing he was sitting on. He didn't poop his pants, but this idiot thought he did, or joked that he did. He thought it was just a joke, and then guess who gets pulled into it? Me. Now, this kid is one of my friends. I know that's really saying something about my friendship status, because I don't remember their name. Believe me, I know. Anyways, so, this kid is like, he's crying. And this is where things start to get really, really funny. One of my friends, we're gonna call Ali, he comes up with a Sherlock Gnomes hat, and then he doesn't mean to do this. He tries to jump in front of him and distract the kids, but instead, he crashes right into the kid, and he goes crashing onto the floor. It's insane. I'm surprised his head didn't get split open. Like, actually. And honestly, if I wasn't this kid's friend, I would have burst into tears like, no, I wouldn't. I'm not that bad of a person. That was a joke. Take that out. Take that out. Anyways, watching new editors that I don't have. Anyways, so yeah. We rush to help the kid, and later he has to leave. Yeah. But now you may be wondering, that's, great, but what happened to, Bart? Well, I'll tell you what happened to Bart. Bart ended up taking the worst turn of them all. Bart ended up leaving the school. Because later, I asked Jim the next day, I talked to him and I'm like, he tries to get me pulled into it and he says, hey, why did you call your friend, a word that I'm not gonna say? And I'm like, what the frick do you mean? I didn't do that. And so the kid's like, sure you did. And then I'm like, you know what? Forget it. I've been meaning to ask you this question. What happened to Bart? And he was like, oh, he got the COVID. He had to leave schools. And I'm like, mm-hmm. So instead, I go to a closer, better friend, as if now, Bob, who I'm very sad about, because sadly, Bob will be leaving schools this year. He's not being bullied, he's just leaving, and he's not above grade. For me, it's a long story. And either way, I'm very sad, that he's leaving. So I might not upload towards the end of the school year, because I'll be sad. It's not an excuse. Either way. That is an excuse, and it's real. It actually is. Anyways, so I go to Bob, and I'm like, hey, what actually happened to Bart? And he's like, oh, I think he just transferred schools or something. Because this kid's, and I was like, that's odd. Because Jim said that he'd be back in like a couple months. I had to go into quarantine, and I'm going back tomorrow. So I don't get why this kid gets COVID. This was also... Now, I'm not going to make any statements on this or anything. But, this was before the vaccine was created. First and last time I'm mentioning that thing. Anyways, this was before the vaccine was created. This was after the vaccine was created. And so I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like, if it's that bad, then he's either, yeah. But I highly doubt that, because he's a kid. But, honestly, I don't wish it upon him, no matter the times, how big of a bully he turned into. I don't wish that upon anyone. Like, everyone's a good person down inside, no matter what you say. I don't live in a comical world. Anyways, so yeah, he left schools. Now, fun fact. Y'all want to know what happened the last time I saw him? Here's what happened. So basically, I was, this was during the remote year where, the world went downhill. This was during the remote year where my world also went downhill. It was not a good year in the academics in 2020. So basically, I'm going there to take the end of grade test. It's the first and last time I have to actually go into school that year. And so basically, I see the kid I see both of them as I'm on my way out. And no, I'm on my way in, and then I see both of them. By both of them, I mean, Bart and, Jim. And so, well, Jim says hi to me. This was before he really, turned into a jerk. Bart says, "What's up, idiot?" or some bull crap like that. Some stupid thing Bart would say. In other words, me and this kid in the 3rd grade, we didn't get along. And he was like, "What's up, idiot?" And I was like, "Ugh." And I start to walk away, but then Jim starts to defend me a little bit. And I'm like, well, that's nice. Now I know that there's hope for him. Bob's really the only friend, the only actual friend that I have that I was able to salvage from the 1st grade. And, well, this kid is a nice kid. Shout out to Bob. He's probably not even watching this video. But yeah. He's a good kid. No, and even though I was a jerk to him in 1st grade because he a little betrayal, honestly, no real hate to any of these kids, except I don't usually show hate to anyone. But Bart, he was a jerk. He literally, he was your typical elementary school bully. He would, call you names, do threats. Oh, yeah. Speaking of threats and Bart, this was the stupidest way I have ever gotten written up in school. Let me just tell you real quick. So, I go up to Bart, and this was after he had betrayed me, and I got real mad at him, and I go up to him, and as I usually sit on a chair when they're doing group time while everyone else sits on the floor. I don't know why I did that in lower L. I tried to do it in lower L, but my teacher wouldn't let me. And so I walk up off my chair, and this kid was being a jerk to me. And so I get up off my chair, and basically I walk up to him as he's trying to pay attention to the teacher, and I'm like, "I'm gonna blow you up into bits." And that was a bad decision. I don't know why I whispered. I said, "I'm gonna blow you up into bits." Something like that. A typical, normal, fake, empty elementary school threat. Now, he did not take this lightly. As a matter of fact, he actually went up to the teacher and he was like, "Miss Caroline! Miss Caroline! Miss Caroline!" And Miss Caroline was finally like, "What the freak do you want?" And he's like, "Avery, he said he was gonna blow me up in the bed." I still look back upon it and laugh. Even if I did get a referral, honestly, it was hilarious. And I'm surprised that I even cried. This kid deserved to be put in his place. He was a literal freaking jerk. Honestly, I'm surprised that he never got an office referral. He threatened me millions upon millions of times. If I knew I wouldn't have a teacher, he would probably have gotten expelled. Or, I don't know if he got expelled. I don't think he did. But he would have gotten expelled. If the teacher's going to be that strict with me threatening Bart, then, and him and her didn't have the best reputation, imagine what would happen if I told on Bart for one of the things he did. But no, I never told on I never told on anyone because I didn't know I could until the 3rd grade. And then a kid kicked me, and it was an accident, of course. But they did kick me very hard. I think they kicked me in the shin, and it hurt a lot. Now, I don't know, they probably did it by accident. Sorry, kid, if that was an accident. Anyways, I start crying. Not crying, that's overreacting. I start, like, I was like, ow, ow, what the frick, ow. And so, the kid doesn't get an office referral, which I'm quite surprised for. Because my teacher might have hated me in lower elementary, I'm going to be honest. I don't think they hated me, because, like, they were really nice to me. But, I don't think that they really liked me too much. They didn't trust me too much. They knew that I was a nice kid, but they didn't trust me, because I had a previous history. I was pretty fond of what an office referral was. I was pretty fond of the vice principal's office, or should I say the assistant principal's office. I knew what that was. So much so, to the point where I am insulted by it. Now, you know why I was insulted? I keep getting into more and more stories, I know. And I'm tired, and I know y'all are tired, so I'm going to make this quick. Basically, one day, I get sent to the principal's office, and you know why I'm really upset? Because my favorite comic book author, who, you know what? I'm going to grab a copy of one of his books now. I'm going to grab one of the books. I don't know which one it is that he signed, but he signed one of my books. Is this it? Right, no it isn't. Y'all know what Dogman is? If you don't, I'm sorry. Because it's a great comic book series. It's actually, like, amazing. You know what? I'm just grabbing a random one. Dave Pilkey. Dave Pilkey, the best comic book author to ever live. Second best Aaron Blabey. He created this beautiful series, which got me to start liking comic books. And basically, one day, I got an office referral when he was coming to visit our school. So I was going to be stuck in the principal's office for the whole day, and it sucked. Now, luckily, yes, I did still get to meet Dave Pilkey, but I had to sit in the back of the audience. And guess what? He happened to be looking directly at my class, and he called on the kid who I really despised. It wasn't Bob, it was some first grade kid who acted like a brat. They don't act like a brat anymore. But yeah, basically they got called on, and I was so mad. He had to look at my class, didn't he? Do you know how much I wanted to scream then? I wanted to scream a lot. So that was the worst moment of my life, and it was the worst day I happened to get an office referral. Honestly, I don't know how I managed to stay in school through the last and first half of second grade and third grade. Because honestly, I got a lot of referrals. I got written up, like a lot. So, yeah. And I literally swelled up into tears. Like, I'm not even kidding. But, you know what? You know what really... another word. You know what really ticked me off? Whoever answered the question got prizes. Like, cool prizes. So, if y'all know who Dave Pilkey is, you know what his most famous series is. Captain Underpants. And so, he basically, in Captain Underpants, one of the main tools used is called a hypno ring. It's basically like a ring that goes spin, spin, and then it hypnotizes you. And basically these were meant to like actually put people into like not like in a full trance, but like a slightly doozied state. And so she got a whole bag full of those. And guess what? She only needed one, but she decided to give almost everyone in the class one. But guess who wasn't a part of that almost everyone? You know why I said almost everyone? Because I didn't get one. And I was so mad. I wanted to punch this kid because I knew they were just being a brat. But, yeah. They had a bunch of other cool prizes, too. And you know what the craziest thing is? This kid, so basically he was drawing pictures, and he was like, okay, answer this question. And he drew this guy right here, Dogman. And basically, he would be like, okay, who is this? That was so freaking obvious. And she was like, Dogman! Honestly, if someone got it wrong, I would have just walked up there and punched them. Like, the questions were so obvious. So, I was really mad. Because literally anyone could have answered it. You weren't even picking anyone to, like, answer a question. You were just picking, like, someone to say, like, all that you have to do is have basic knowledge of this book, which literally everyone in the school read. And then, like, but he was basically just handing out free prizes. And she got a bunch of other cool prizes, too, that I don't even remember. But, yeah, I was mad. And you know what the worst part was? She got picked to answer a second question. I was like, okay, my favorite comic book author must be half-blind. Now, obviously, I didn't say that, but I was like, he must be half-blind because he picked the same person twice. That's not freaking fair. Like, just talking about it makes my blood boil. Anyways, guys, that is story time with Avery for today. If y'all enjoyed, please make sure to like and subscribe. If y'all want me to talk more about Bob, he will be included in a lot of stories. I have a lot of stories about those little high-speed chase things. But, yeah. Also, we got a few more stories with Rocket Plays who I could tell. Also, collaborations with him coming soon, I think. Bye. Yeah, go get